Hey shooters, Adam from Atlas Gunworks. Talk about scope mounts real quick. There's a couple of tricks to this if you've never done it. One is that the screws will sometimes come too long. So when the screws come too long, I don't know if we'll be able to get a good picture of this, but we're certainly going to try. This thing's all black. Bear with me as I set the light up. But what happens is if the screw's too long, we get, this will probably work if I do it just right. Those are the inside of the screw holes, and the screw will poke out right here. And what you'll have happen is the screw will touch the guide rod or the barrel, or depends on how long it is, what it messes up. But that's bad. So the screws can't stick through. They got to be flush here. And so there's a couple things to do. So that's our first thing. So the first thing you do is you put the whole setup the way you're going to have it together, and you mock it up. And you're like, okay, this looks good. And you put all the screws in, make sure nothing sticks through. If nothing's sticking through on this side, you're good to go. If they stick through, what I do is I just take a bench on the bench grinder, depending on how aggressive your wheel is, depends on how long. But I use the actual Allen key and either hold it here, or if you have a little pad on your thing, I just push on the pad. And usually with the head of this, you can balance it and then just grind them as need be. Try to keep them as flat as possible. Then mock it up, and once you get them right, you should blue the tip that you ground. We like the 4440 blue. It's the one that works definitely the best. So blue that tip so it doesn't get rusty and have rust sitting on your DLC finish or whatever's on your gun. And if you're using like a Go Guns, they're going to send you longer screws. And so this is an RTS2 mount. There's 5 screw holes in the frame typically. The Go Gun has 4. The Go Guns mount like this. On this one, so what I almost always do is at least the 2 short screws on either end of the scope mount, and that way it's going to be locked down and tight, so that before you even put the Go Gun mount on, everything's just where you want it. So it's dealer's choice on the next part. You can put another screw hole in this one. I had it that way when I mocked it up the first time. Or you can run 3 of the long screws through there. I think that's a better setup than running all 4 of the long screws. So these screws, I'm going to check. They're all the same length. We had to trim them a little bit. They appear to be. I'm going to use 3. Put red Loctite on these things. And don't put too much, but don't be afraid of it either. Now, when you Loctite a comp, you use a priming compound. You do not do that here. If you put primer on this, it will be pretty close to permanent. So I'm going to run 3 of these. They're a little tight. So I'm going to put these in. I'm going to check to make sure that they didn't go through. And then I'm going to let it sit up overnight before I shoot it. Red Loctite, 262 red, your standard red, and then I let it sit up overnight before I shoot it. And it's that simple. This time we'll run 3 in there and life should be good. If your scope mount comes loose or you need to take it off and you want to clean it, when I go to take the screws apart, I always clean them with so I take a screw out, get my wire wheel on here, and just give it a good, get whatever Loctite is in there off, and you should be good to go. Blue won't work here, so red Loctite, 262, your standard red. I would stay away from the high temp just in case something gets bound up and you need to use heat to unlock it. So 262 red Loctite, and you should be good to go. Check your scope mount every time you shoot, and it's really that simple. Hope to see you guys on the range soon.